Moon Letter, Astrological Podcast.
How to Follow the Cycle of the Moon by Ben Belinsky. If you live in a city, you'll know it isn't easy to follow the cycle of the moon. If you're in a desert or in the middle of an ocean and there isn't a streetlight for hundreds of miles, the stars are so big and so close, and you can watch the sky turning and the stars rising and setting, and you have to remind yourself that the sky isn't moving, it's the earth that's turning, and you can watch the moon changing over the whole month, from new to full and back to new again. But in a city, there's air pollution and light pollution, and there are buildings cluttering up the horizon, and you might, if you're lucky, catch a glimpse of the moon, sometimes a crescent, sometimes a half moon, sometimes a gibbous moon, sometimes full. But you can't grasp the whole picture. You're unable to say, tonight the moon will be so many days old, it will rise at this time, and will have this or that shape. And so this piece is written to give the whole story, the beginning, middle, end, and beginning again of the moon's orbit around the earth, where to expect to see her, what shape you expect to find her in. But as to what it all means astrologically, that will have to wait. First, let's make sense of the mechanics of it and learn how to follow the cycle of the moon. And if you want to see the illustrations that go with this podcast, go to moonletter.co.uk. The moon takes 29 to 30 days from one new moon to the next. It takes 15 days to grow from new to full, then another 15 days to shrink back to new. On its journey from new to full, we say it is waxing. From full back to new, we say it is waning. So, we can divide the cycle of the moon into two halves, the waxing half and the waning half. For astrologers and astronomers, the new moon is the moment when the moon is exactly at the same position in the sky as the sun. This is also known as a conjunction. From the Earth's point of view, the sun is behind the moon, illuminating the far side of the moon, the side we can't see, while the side that is facing the Earth is dark and therefore invisible. You have to wait a day or so before you can see anything. So, in the next couple of days after the new moon, if you look at the western horizon where the sun has just set, the first sliver of the crescent moon should be briefly and faintly visible, depending, of course, on the weather. Over the next few days, as the moon moves further and further away from the sun, it will be visible as soon as the sun sets as a crescent moon, each day getting thicker, making its appearance higher and higher in the sky, and being visible for longer before it follows the sun beneath the western horizon. This waxing crescent is shaped like a backwards letter C. By the seventh day, when the sun sets, the moon will be visible overhead at the top of the sky, the mid-heaven, as a half-moon. This is known as the first quarter, because it's a quarter of the way around its cycle of 29 to 30 days. As it continues to grow and thicken, when it is about 10 to 12 days old, 10 to 12 days after the new moon, the moon is not yet full, but it's coming up to full, and it's known as a waxing gibbous moon. That's like a full moon with a crescent missing. It will be visible in the eastern part of the sky when the sun sets. At around 13 to 15 days, the moon is exactly opposite the sun. It's a full moon. The side of the moon that we can see from Earth is fully illuminated by the sun. As the sun sets in the west, the full moon rises in the east. By midnight, the full moon is directly overhead. Then as the sun rises, the moon will set. In the days after the full moon, we're in the waning half of the moon's cycle. The moon rises a couple of hours after sunset. Day by day, as it rises later and later, it will appear to be getting thinner, losing its fullness as if it's being eaten away. This moon is known as a waning gibbous moon. It will dominate the night sky, disappearing in the early morning as the sun rises. When it is about 21 days old, about 7 days after the full moon, it will appear as a half-moon, otherwise known as the last quarter, as it is 3/4 of the way around its cycle. It will rise in the east around midnight. Then, when the sun rises, the half-moon will be directly overhead, only to disappear as the light of the sun brightens the sky. By about the 25th day, the moon rises only a few hours before the sun. It appears as a waning crescent, facing the same direction as the letter C. The thin crescent moon will only be visible briefly, as it rises a very short time before the sun rises and bleaches the sky. You'll be lucky to see it. Then for the next few days, the moon disappears, lost in the light of the sun. The period when the moon is not visible is known as the dark of the moon. Then the new moon reappears in a few days as the waxing crescent, and the cycle begins again. There will also be variations in the points on the horizon where the moon will rise and set. These variations were expertly observed and mapped by the ancient Bronze Age people who built the stone circles 5,000 years ago, such as Stonehenge in England and Callanish in Scotland.
And for more astrological and spiritual musings, check out moonletter.co.uk.